everybody. I'm Nick Whitfield. I'm over here with a man that I grew up with in White Oak, Mr. Vernon Jarvis. And I happened to run into Vernon over in the grocery store the other day, and he was telling me that he had this film where they used to show around the cone plants that was filmed, I believe, around 1939. And so since me and Vernon are about the same age, I believe I'm 1 month older than Vernon. I was born in December of 26 and he was born in January. So that makes me about 30 days older than him. And incidentally, he and I will be signing up for Social Security about the same time. But where all those years got to, I don't know. But Vernon and myself grew up over in White Oak, played baseball in the old White Oak ballpark. But the reason I'm over here today is to reminisce with Vernon a little bit. And he's going to run off, and I really appreciate what he's doing. He is going to run off a copy of this old film back in the 30s. And I probably won't be able to recognize a lot of the people. I understand that I was in it, and Norman Pinkland is able to identify a lot of the people. But anyway, Vernon and I are going to sit here, and I want to reminisce with Vernon a little bit before we start filming this. So Vernon, if you'll come on over here and sit down, me and you will sit here and talk about old times. My wife says I live back in the old days all the time anyway, so we'll just go back to the old days and all. Vernon, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, Nick.
Boy,
been a long time since I've seen you.
Yeah, it's, I just was thinking about, you know, I was on 21st Street and you was on
17th Street, right down on the corner.
Right down there in front of the old White Oak Pond.
That's
and
right.
Vernon, let me ask you something. Do you remember when your dad bought you that little ball suit and my dad bought me one, and you was the New York Yankees,
yeah,
and I was the Boston Red Sox?
Well, didn't we have a time?
Oh man, I always wondered, we had to wear tennis shoes, and I always wondered where was our spikes. But I also remember, Vernon, your dad, you remember on them Saturdays, that he would go to town and buy these little round recording discs. You had a recording machine. You and your dad, I guess, was the only one in White Oak that had a machine that would record.
Well, Montgomery Ward had the first one, and Daddy, he seen it, and he decided that's what he wanted to do. You know, we was all musically inclined anyway. I played the guitar, Daddy played the mandolin, you played the mandolin.
Yeah.
It was just about every weekend, all day, especially on Sunday.
That's right.
That we would sit and make these little discs. Some of them was about 10 inches.
That's right.
Some 8 inches, some 6 inches. And I remember Daddy telling me when he seen this machine at Montgomery Ward.
Yeah.
And even the salesman didn't know enough about it to operate. And Daddy bought it with the understanding if the salesman would come out and teach him how to operate it. In fact, I've sat and watched them learn on their own. And I think the salesman would bring some blanks to use up, keep them running into the expense. But Daddy got where he was pretty good on that thing. Now this was cutting a record disc. It wasn't a tape.
That's right.
It was just like a record disc that you buy.
You're right.
And I have got some around here, but over the years, moisture and stuff on the coatings on them has caused them to peel off. And I knew you used to have to keep them in the refrigerator. Get them out of the refrigerator and them things be ice cold. When Daddy would put them on the machine, and I forget what we call our band back then.
I don't know, but I remember one thing, Vernon. Our two favorite players back then was Ernest Tubb. You was an Ernest Tubb man.
Right.
And I was a Bill Monroe man. But we played together, and like you said, your dad, he was talented. He could play
He played lead guitar.
Lead guitar, and then you had a big old jumbo guitar that you played. And I remember Harold Cooper. Harold's deceased now. And I remember him well. He would come down sometime to play with us. And of course your dad, and I think a lot of times, Vernon, about all these people in White Oak, your dad and mother's gone on down, so is my dad. And when I think back up 21st Street, 20th, 19th, 18th, 17th, you know it's not too many of those people left now.
It sure ain't.
But I remember, like you said, bro, we used to play there, and me and you both smoked then, but neither one of us smoked now.
No,
But we used to stick them cigarettes on the end of the string after the neck.
Yeah, just sit and twiggle all the time. But we had some good times.
That was the good old days, Vernon.
I tell you, they talk about the good old days. Them was the good old days.
That's right.
I get sitting around, most of the time you get our age, you're sitting around and like I am here during the days when my wife's working, I get to thinking back. I think about you a lot of times, Hired Cooper a lot of times, and S.M. Spivey.
And
a lot of these fellas, G.H. Cooper, Hardin Parrish,
Willard Smith, and Harry Johnson, and a lot of them boys is dead now.
I know they are.
And but you know, a lot of times I'll ride through White Oak, just up and down the streets, you know, let my mind wander back. And of course, all those streets are paved now. But I can remember, and you do too, they were dirt streets back in. But I still say those, like you say, I agree with you, Vern, those were the great days.
I just wished, I told my wife here the other day, I wished that I could have had one of these cameras.
Oh, wouldn't that have been wonderful?
And been able to maybe ever once a month, or if it was once a year. We're talking about, I'm talking about 61, going on 62 years.
That's right.
Right here in this village.
That's right.
Not particularly on this side until I'm married, but on the other side of the pond.
Vernon, as me and you got older and we become working age, I believe it was 16, we both started in at White Oak, but you spent most of your life, and you went on, you was successful, you become a supervisor, I believe in the weaving room at White Oak. And I went to Revolution and became department head there in the napping room. And so the Lord blessed us, Vernon. I mean, we done real good. I mean, we didn't have anything. You know, I tell a lot of these young people around the mill, and of course a lot of them don't believe it, but you'll verify it, that we used to, that people lived together, and at night they wouldn't lock their doors, and those that had screens would maybe just pull the screen door shut, the windows would stay up. That's how honest people were back in those days. And I can remember, Vernon, when you would send next door and maybe borrow a cup of flour or a cup of sugar. And of course, these young folks, they can't believe that, but you know that's so.
I know that for a fact. We was fortunate that Daddy had an automobile ever since I can remember. I know it was a T-model Ford, but vehicles, you very seldom ever seen one. And they take them when they wore them about out, they make wood saws out of them. But I have no...
Rod Watson done that.
Rod Watson. James took it over when he got fast going.
Vernon, while you on automobiles, let me interrupt you now. Do you remember your dad had a 37 Studebaker, sort of a steel gray color, and he would let you drive. You learned to drive. And you would get me and we'd drive that car around up and down White Oak. Do you remember that?
Yeah, Lord, yeah.
But there was one thing I can't figure out. Now, I'm a month older than you, and I didn't have driver's license. How'd you have driver's license? Was you driving that car without driver's license?
Not at that time. Not at that time. It was a 37 model. But, you know, we moved from 21st Street down to 17th Street, I believe, in 1939.
Yeah.
So, really, I didn't get the driver's license till 43. But, you know, around
you
there...
was driving without license there for a time, but it was just, of course, you know, back in those days, Vernon, there wasn't a lot of cars and all, and your dad would just drive up and down the streets and all.
Round in the village over there, you didn't have city police running the streets.
That's right.
You had a deputy sheriff, Jim Frazier, was right there behind us. Jim wasn't going to say nothing.
That's right.
And like you said, there wasn't that many vehicles in the neighborhood. Daddy would let me drive around the block, but I really didn't start, you know, without him. I never did take it on myself. I had driver's license.
I know you'd always get permission.
And Daddy, he took me right on up. I remember the first time in the old courthouse that you go up and they asked you a question or two up in the highway patrol office. They took you down to the back and they carried you around the block. If you'd done all right, they went ahead and wrote them out. I think it was $1. I think it was $1 when I got my first in 1943. And I've never had a ticket, never had a speeding ticket, never had no kind of a violation ticket marked against my record. And when I started 16, and I'm still driving today.
Vernon, talking about our families now, you've got one daughter, is that
I've got
correct?
one daughter.
What's her name?
Patricia Gale.
And what is her, you say
She's a
got...
Valentine now.
Is she?
Yeah, she...
You got a grandson or a granddaughter?
I got 3 granddaughters. One of them's around 11.
What's their names, Vernon? I want to get their names on this tape. So
The youngest one is Jennifer.
Right,
The next one is Christy.
right.
Christy. And the other one is Angie.
That's right.
Angie's oldest. She's be 18 July the 3rd. Christy is somewhere around 13, 14. And the other one's around 11 or 12, somewhere in that. I can't keep up with them.
And your dad was named Burley.
Daddy's name was Burley, William Burley.
And your mother?
His mother was Margaret.
Yes.
Elizabeth.
And you had 3 sisters.
I had 3 sisters, was Ruth, Mary Lou, and Brenda.
Is all of them live in Burley?
All of them living today. Ruth married a Dowdy. Mary Lou married a Wiry. And Brenda married a Shelton. And they all live right here within our neighborhood right now.
Well, let's see now, Vernon, let me get my family on. My daddy was out, you know, they called him Whitty Whitfield.
Whitty Whitfield.
And A.L. Whitfield, who lives right down below you here, Vernon, on Gordon Street,
Yeah,
right below you.
You were just telling me about
Yeah. And I married Dorothy Ingold. She's a good little wife. And
In fact, her mother used to work for me when she was working.
that's right.
Yeah.
And
her father's name was what? I can't
Charles F. He's deceased
Used to
now.
work in the machine
That's
shop.
correct.
Yeah, I knew him well.
And I got 3 children. I had Eddie, he's the oldest. And then Judy, my daughter, she's next. And my youngest son is Michael. And I've got 3 granddaughters, Angela, Valerie, and Laurie. And 1 grandson named Jake. And my oldest granddaughter is going on 17, Angela. She's just beginning to drive. In fact, I bought her a car the other day, and she has her driver's license, and she's beginning to drive now. So, Vernon, that's how fast time passes by.
I tell you, it passes fast. I was going to tell you, my daughter, her husband is in the service. Kenneth Valentine, he's WO2 now, up for WO3. They pulled 2 terms, they call it, overseas in Germany and in Holland. The first time they went over, they spent 4 years in Colesruth, Germany. And then they come back and went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He was an E6. I believe it was E5 or E7. E5 it might have been. So he put in for warrant officer, made that within 18 months he was in Fort Campbell. And then in turn sent him right back over to Germany, right where he come from. He pulled, seemed like it was 6 months in Colesruth again before they transferred him up to Munstergeleen, Holland. And they were there the rest of the 4 years. And then they come back, and 2 years ago this month, down to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, where he's in charge of supplies down there now. They bought him a home, and that's where they're living at the present time.
Vernon, let's see, you was in the Army?
Yeah.
I was in the Navy. I happened to be watching the Lee Conard show this morning, and he's running this series on China. And this morning he was in Shanghai on the Wangpu. Now, Lee calls it the Wangpu, but the correct name is the Wangpu River. And I seen a lot of places that was really familiar to me. We were there in World War II, or right after the World War ended, World War II. Bernard, I'll tell you what, if you'll go ahead and if you'll pull me in a little close up there on that camera,
All right.
and we'll go ahead and record that film and take a look at it. But Vernon, as you pull me in close, I want to dedicate this film to your family and to my family and to all the folks that in the coming years may be able to see it. I want to dedicate this and this film of Old White Oak, the old White Oak Pond, and all the dear people that lived in White Oak, to the future ones that may be looking at this program. And I want to thank you, Vern. I appreciate you for recording this for us. And I really do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
In July 1939. In 1973, a man from Siler City who collects old film brought the film to my office at White Oak Plant. It cost $380 and Cone Mills purchased it. As of February the 3rd, 1986, we have shown this film to various civic groups 65 times to more than 2,000 people. This film shows scenes at the 3 mill villages and downtown Greensboro. We hope you enjoy seeing it. Since the original, this scene shows employees leaving the old Proximity store on their way to work right across the street at Proximity Plant. That's a Kincaid young man. Many of these people I don't know since I was raised in White Oak. Now this is not Broadway, New York. This is downtown Greensboro, July 1939. I believe the cameraman though speeded it up, but here it is in normal speed. Here's Main Street right on the square. They had a police officer and they called him Sunshine Wyrick, and he was on the square about 40 years and never made an arrest. He was noted for giving out chewing gum to the children. You'll catch a glimpse of him directing traffic in just a moment. There he is. Here's some employees from Proximity are sitting on the steps of the old Proximity Mercantile store, located right across from the YMCA building. That's a Delancey boy, heavyset man. The man standing with a cap is Charles Tippett. That's Mr. McFarland and Mr. Wilson, Mr. Harris on the right. That's Howard Tucker. He worked for the White Oak Department Store. That's a McCann. Mr. Wilson standing up there with apron on. The man on the right is Ed Maxwell. Again, these are Proximity Plant employees. These are 2 barbers. This is right across from the YMCA in Proximity. That's Jerry Harris, Warren Webster, Junior Starlin, Ray Woods, C.W. Way, Bernard Faust. This is in the Grove, out in front of White Oak Plant. There's George Cox with a hat on, Mr. Burnside with a cap, John Starlin. On the left is Junior Petit, Alvester Wheeler, Mac Davis. On the right here, Joe Morris. Man chewing the gum is the Johnson, Lawrence Phillips with a hat. This man is Archie Manus. It's Mr. Stone on the right there. Archie Gann on the right. Daley Lloyd with a cap on. C.B. Cates. That's Jimmy Thane on the left and a Mitchell boy on the right, and Dad Hutchins. Tommy Moss. That's another one of the barbers at White Oak. This is Fairview Street in White Oak, right across from the White Oak office. That's Horace Lineberry. Ice cream was 2 scoops for a nickel then. There's Odie Petit, Lawrence Bush, Tom Godfrey, Woodrow Staley, Lefter, and B.B. Bradford on the left, Clarence Bill on the right. Irish Starlin. They were eating milkshakes, Juicy Blackman. That's Neil McFarlane on the right. He's a big egg producer now. This is back at Proximity again. Marks Coleman on the left. Matching for a Coke, it looks like. That's the old White Oak office. That's Mr. Forges. Again, that's jump back to Revolution. This is Revolution plant. What did we do back then for entertainment? No TV, played checkers, and listened to the radio. That's at Revolution. See Printworks plant in the background. Lee Forest Subtle smoking a pipe in the center. That's at the Revolution drugstore. That's inside the drugstore. The man on the right is Elmer Garrett. Now this is people coming out from work. There's Webster Owens. There's Mr. Gregory with a walking stick. Theodore Hayes, Kermit Simmons. Here comes Ease Byers. Hunter Thornbrough, Elmer Walters, Eber Brown with a white hat on, Mr. Murray, John Russell, Garland Denny, Mr. Ball, the gate watchman. There's Roy Smith and Watson Tucker. He's now with the State Department of Revenue. There's Iris Lovett. There's Miss Wren. John Hanner. There goes Mr. Merritt from the office, the white-haired gentleman. Bill Herbin. Annie Whitt. Willie Holmes. Thurman Barber. It was hot in July. They've got their umbrellas as soon as they come out of the plant. Woodrow Culbert. John Moore, Mr. Forges, Milton Jenkins. Bob Loman on the left. Kenosha Parker, Doc Cates. Mr. Flenham, Mr. Shirley. John Webster. Howard Smith, there's Pauline Trogan, Sam Pickard. There's Sam Wheeler and Paul Kiger. Philip Browning on the left and Jim Gorley. Ruth Shotwell. Jack Denny. Cleo Honeycutt. Bertha Hardy, Blanche Roberts on the left. These two gentlemen, Rad Moreland in the straw hat and Pete Mitchell. Boyd Bird on the left and Mr. Johnson on the right. There's Brother Harris. Back at Proximity Store, Brady McQueen on the left with a little mustache. It was really warm then. That's Proximity office. That looks like the Dead End kids. Proximity YMCA. Blake Longest for proximity. I want you to watch this exhibition that this young man puts on. Here again, I believe that's trick photography. This is Revolution again, back to proximity. Snap beans, 19 cents a pound. This is on Fairview Street, I believe. Kurt Lemon's on the left. That's a Wilson boy on the left. This is the proximity gate. Not too many people I know here. Sherman Baysinger, who was later superintendent of the White Oak plant. You'll see him in just a few minutes, and I'll point it out when he comes by. He was a card grinder at proximity in 1939. There goes Sherman, his bib overalls. Eunice Lumley in her white pants. He just retired last year over proximity. Mr. Barton. Now remember that this film was made 47 years ago, so the little boys that you see at the gate passing out some sort of pamphlet, middle-aged men now. That's Lillian Way, Blake Longest. Grady McQueen again. Zeke Baysinger worked for Columbia Laundry on the left. There's Kurt Lemons on the bottom step. Horace Pennington and Alton Martin. They worked in the office. Now ice cream was about 2 scoops for a nickel. There's Sheriff Massey, Deputy Sheriff. Back at the YMCA at proximity. I want you to watch this contortionist here. And when he finds out the camera's on him, he really does the job. I think the little boy on the right of the screen is a Summers boy, Bobby Summers. That's Burley Guffey in the center. That's up on Fairview Street. That's Norman Strawn in the hat. John Moore. That's Mr. Leonard on the right, Mr. Hanner on the left. There's Cooter Ward in the hat and James Nance. Tom Crabtree. Norman Strawn again. There's Lieutenant, but it was Captain Jackson's police department when he retired a few years ago. He's insurance agent. There's Leonard Bell in the YMCA. There's Will Woods in the center with a cap on. And a faucet man on the right. There's Miss Ida Wire. Glenn Merritt, John Pascal on the left, and a Waldo on the right, Jim Gorley on the left, J.D. Lovett on the right. I think he's a little right boy. Neil McFarland Jr. Matt Pace, Oscar Crogden. There's Sheriff Ed Thompson of White Oak and Jim Murray. He used to do a lot of plowing in the village. Lee Clapp on the right, he was chief electrician. The boy with the shirt there on the right is J.O. Wheeler. He was killed in World War II. Gladys Wyrick on the left, Francis Blackman and Sis Wyrick. George Lee and Mr. Webster of the White Oak Barber Shop. Lenny Mae Wren. Back to Revolution again. Mattie McIntyre and Dot Cates, Denisha Parker. Burnside boy on the left, a Wheeler, and then a Cates and a Coble, Eva Payne. That's Paul Burnside. The girl on the right there is a Roberts. Tom Crabtree, William Holland, Everett Crisco, Lee Clapp and James Nance, Kendricks, Howard Kendricks, A.J. Kinney and Bobby Canada, Burke and Cale, girls, Bull Robertson, Floyd Beverly, Milton Crowder, Hap Robinson and Glenn Neighbors, going to ball cap there is Jake Stevens, Howard Tucker again, Paul Hart on the left and Carl Neese. Carl was a barber at White Oak. There's Dewey Owens on the right. Facing us is Fred Cuthbertson, man standing up with Mr. Yao. Bernard Moreland on the left, Mounts boy on the right. Burley Guthrie, Harlan Wyatt, Roy Johnson. There's Roy Johnson. Mr. Leonard. Johnny Hobbs. Arthur Manus' son. There's Arnold Knuckles, his father. He worked for the company store. Yes, he did. Carlisle Davis. He played baseball. That's Mr. A.C. Holt. He was treasurer of Cone Mills. Two barbers again. It's a Burnside. That's a Summers boy on the right. Woodrow Emmett on the right, Woodrow Cook, Carruthers on the left. This is the old Cone baseball field up on 21st Street, which is now Cone Boulevard. Fred Cutlerson, Mr. Kiger with a hat on, Reason Brown the cap, Mr. Webster with a straw hat. Webster Owens up on the top row with Mr. Murray. There's Mr. Murray, Webster Owens again, Webster Owens' son. John Lovett, Aaron Pinkleton and Louis Guthrie, Herman Adams on the left, Jim Crum on the right, James Amos and Robner Wilson, Wade Morris, some of the ball players there, Ralph Tippett with his hat kind of sideways, Bernie Loman, Charlie Cavness, Bill Burke was the business manager. Frankie Johnson and the Oakley boy, J.D. Wheeler, Pace, Cooper boy, Margaret Pace and Charlie Bryant. Buck Hatcher, Charlie Cavness again, Aaron Wyrick, Robert Watson, John Faust, Mrs. Barley, Stuart Girl, Shorty Carpenter, Mr. Wyrick, Mr. Petit, Mr. Long, Euless Barley used to work in the carpenter shop. There's Mrs. Watson, Mrs. Robert Watson. There's a Whitfield girl on the left. There's Reese Smith on the right. Next is Posey Cockman, Olin Odom, and a Simpson, and Albert Simpson, and Walt Poole used to go around the village cutting wood. There's Edward Whitfield. He was over here napping at Revolution in later years. There's Mrs. Barley. Aaron Stevenson, his wife, he played baseball for a Cone team. That's a little Audrey and Joyce Smith. There's the two Wheeler boys on 19th Street. And please don't boo. That's Doug Shores. That's me. My little brother, Russell, 6 years old then. That's Mr. Andrews from Revolution. There's the old Revolution Theater. They call it the Bug House. Hobel. Many people in the village back in those days had cows. He didn't want to see him smoking, I don't believe. Bob Ward opening up his shirt, showing his suntan. There's the old Revolution Theater again. Now some things change and some things never change. This is the Eli Bloodworth Motor Car Company. Used car department. And all of these automobiles, as the salesman would say, were driven only on Sunday by old maid school teachers. I want you to notice how clean the engines are and the inside interior and how much room you have in the trunk. Isn't that a clean motor? Look at the inside, the upholstery. No seat covers. Don't believe you're going to take a long trip because there was room for, I think, a spare tire and maybe one suitcase in the back. Buick. And notice those white wall tires. I believe they'll be coming back in style now. Back at Revolution again. 4 boys on a bike. That's a Gibson boy. That's the Newman. Mrs. Leonard on the left, Mrs. McDaniel on the right. Mrs. Leonard's son is Vice President of Cone Mills. Up the River was playing, and I think it cost about a dime to go to the movies back then. Nickel for a box of popcorn. She's Elaine Andrews. She's another Andrews girl. Matey Gibson, Bus Gibson. Now this funeral home was located down near the Bishop Block, and it reminds me of an old haunted house. And I want you to notice that the man coming down the stairway, it looks like a robot. Now this apparently was posed. It looks like they've got a call for an ambulance. You can see him when he makes his turn there. It's down at the Bishop Block on Elm Street. Now, this reminds me of a Vincent Price horror movie. It just had some scary music to play along with it. Like a robot coming down the stairs. Watch how he makes the turn there. And the way I tell that this is 1939 movie, when he sits down at his desk, there's a calendar on the wall turned to July 1939. This time the call is more serious because I believe you'll see a hearse pulling out now. Jack Lackey there with his black hair parted in the middle. Johnny Hobbs on the right. The man without a cap on is Bruce Shropshire. And Denver McDonald. Bob Thornton, Mr. Inman with those here card room at proximity.